The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Atlanta's busy streets as Marcus Johnson pedaled his well-worn bicycle home from Green's grocery store. His backpack, heavy with advanced mathematics textbooks, pressed against his shoulders while the day's earnings, $42 in tips and wages, sat safely in his front pocket. At 14, Marcus had mastered the art of balancing school, work, and his dreams of becoming an engineer. The familiar route home took him past manicured business districts that gradually gave way to his modest neighborhood. Marcus enjoyed this quiet time, using it to mentally solve complex equations from his honors classes or plan his next science project. Today, however, something unusual caught his attention. A pearl-white Tesla Model S sat stranded on the roadside, its hazard lights blinking steadily against the shimmer of heat rising from the asphalt. Next to it stood a distinguished-looking gentleman in his 60s, wearing a light blue dress shirt with rolled-up sleeves. The man dabbed his forehead with a crisp handkerchief while staring at a clearly flat rear tire with the helpless expression of someone more accustomed to boardrooms than roadside emergencies. Marcus slowed his bicycle, his Uncle Tony's voice echoing in his mind. "Skills are meant to be shared, nephew. That's what builds bridges between people." After countless hours spent in his uncle's auto shop, Marcus could change a tire in his sleep. Still, his mother's cautionary words about approaching strangers made him hesitate for a moment. The man checked his phone again, shaking his head in frustration. Marcus noticed the premium roadside assistance card in his other hand. Useless in this part of town where response times often stretched beyond an hour. The summer heat showed no mercy, and the gentleman's distress became more apparent as another luxury car sped past without stopping. Making his decision, Marcus guided his bicycle onto the sidewalk, engaging the kickstand with practiced ease. He straightened his Green's grocery store name tag and approached with clear, confident steps. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus called out, maintaining a respectful distance. "I notice you're having trouble with your tire. I can help if you'd like." The gentleman turned, surprise flickering across his features. He was tall, with silver hair and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners despite his current predicament. "You know how to change a tire?" he asked, his tone carrying equal measures of hope and skepticism. Marcus smiled, already spotting the Tesla's designated lift points. "Yes, sir. My uncle runs Johnson's auto shop over on Mason Street. I've been learning from him since I was old enough to hold a wrench." He gestured to the flat tire. "That's a Tesla Model S. The jack points are reinforced with aluminum, and you'll need to engage service mode through the touchscreen to prevent the air suspension from auto-leveling while we work." The man's eyebrows rose, impressed by Marcus's specific knowledge. "Well, I must say I wasn't expecting such expertise from—" He paused, reading the name tag. "Marcus. I'm Richard Henderson, and I would greatly appreciate your help. My roadside assistance seems to be taking their time." Marcus moved to the rear of the vehicle, his trained eye already assessing the situation. "Don't worry, Mr. Henderson. We'll have you back on the road in no time. First, we should check if the spare in your trunk is properly inflated. Sometimes people forget about maintaining their spare until they need it." As Marcus began his methodical inspection of the equipment, neither he nor Henderson could have possibly known that this chance encounter on a sweltering Atlanta afternoon was about to change both their lives forever. The Tesla's jack hummed smoothly as Marcus guided it into position, his movements precise and confident. Richard Henderson stood nearby, his initial uncertainty replaced by genuine interest as he watched the young man work. The evening traffic rushed past them, creating a gentle breeze that offered little relief from the Georgia heat. "You mentioned Johnson's auto shop," Henderson said, breaking the comfortable silence. "I think I've driven past it. That's the place with the blue and white sign, right?" He loosened his collar, finally accepting the casual demands of the situation. Marcus nodded while carefully positioning the jack under the reinforced point. "Yes, sir. Uncle Tony started it 20 years ago. He always says a car tells you everything you need to know if you just listen." His hands moved steadily, demonstrating the truth behind his words. Could you engage the service mode on your screen, please? It's under the maintenance menu. Henderson complied, impressed by the teenager's knowledge of his vehicle's specific requirements. You seem to know quite a bit about Teslas. We don't see many of these at your uncle's shop, do we? A smile played across Marcus's face as he began loosening the lug nuts in a star pattern. No, sir, but I study everything I can about cars, especially electric ones. I think they're the future. He paused, checking his work. Did you know the Model S has a battery pack that weighs almost 1,200 pounds? The engineering behind the weight distribution is fascinating. Henderson's interest deepened. He recognized something familiar in Marcus's enthusiasm, the same curiosity that had driven his own success in the tech industry. Tell me more about your interest in engineering. You mentioned electric vehicles are the future. As Marcus worked, he shared his dreams of developing more efficient electric motors. His eyes lit up when describing the science fair project he was planning, a miniature electromagnetic propulsion system. Henderson listened intently, noting how Marcus's technical knowledge was advanced well beyond his years. The hardest part will be getting the copper wire for the electromagnets, Marcus admitted, carefully lowering the flat tire to the ground. I've been saving my grocery store money, but copper prices are pretty high right now. Henderson watched as Marcus efficiently mounted the spare tire, thinking about the countless young minds who never got the chance to realize their potential due to limited resources. You know, Marcus, determination like yours is rare. When I started in technology, I had mentors who believed in me. They made all the difference. Marcus tightened the last lug nut to specification, his uncle's torque wrench clicking precisely. Uncle Tony says something similar. He tells me opportunity comes from preparation meeting the right moment. He stood up, wiping his hands on the clean rag he always carried. You're all set, Mr. Henderson. The spare is properly inflated, but you'll want to get a new tire soon. I can recommend a few places if you'd like. Henderson reached for his wallet, but Marcus politely shook his head. No charge, sir. Happy to help. He began packing up the tools, placing them carefully in the Tesla's trunk compartment. Marcus, Henderson called as the young man turned to leave. Would you tell me more about that science fair project of yours? Something about this chance encounter felt significant, like the universe had orchestrated a meeting that needed to happen. Standing there in the fading daylight, neither of them fully grasped that this conversation about electromagnets and copper wire would spark a mentorship that would reshape both their worlds in ways they couldn't imagine. The following day, Richard Henderson sat in his home office, his morning coffee growing cold as he studied his laptop screen. Marcus Johnson's academic record illuminated the display. Straight A's in advanced placement courses, perfect attendance, and glowing recommendations from every teacher. But it was the comments section that truly caught his attention. Marcus completed a functioning solar-powered water filtration system using only recycled materials, his science teacher had written. When asked why he chose this project, he spoke about communities lacking access to clean water. This level of social awareness combined with technical skill is extraordinary for his age. Henderson leaned back in his chair, remembering his own journey from a small town to tech industry success. His thoughts were interrupted by a notification, a local news article from 6 months ago. He clicked it, and his screen filled with a photo of Marcus standing proudly beside what appeared to be a homemade robot. Local teen wins regional science fair with sustainable technology. The headline read. The article detailed how Marcus had constructed an autonomous waste-sorting robot using parts salvaged from discarded electronics. He programmed it himself, learning coding through free online courses at the library after his grocery store shifts. Henderson pulled out his phone and dialed a familiar number. Sarah, it's Richard. Remember that STEM education initiative we discussed? I think I've found our first candidate. Later that afternoon, Henderson's Tesla pulled into Green's grocery store parking lot. Through the window, he watched Marcus efficiently bagging groceries, stopping occasionally to help elderly customers to their cars. Even in this simple job, the boy's character shone through. As Marcus's shift ended, Henderson approached him. "That robot you built," he said, causing Marcus to turn in surprise. "Tell me how you manage the artificial intelligence component." Marcus's face lit up with unexpected joy at the technical question. "I used a Raspberry Pi as the brain," he explained, pulling out a worn notebook filled with detailed sketches and code snippets. "The hardest part was optimizing the image recognition algorithm to work with limited processing power." Henderson studied the notebook pages, impressed by the sophisticated diagrams. "And you learned this all on your own?" "Mostly YouTube tutorials and online forums," Marcus admitted. "The library computers only allow 2 hours per day, so I had to be efficient. I took notes on everything because I couldn't always access the videos when I needed them." "What would you do if you had unlimited resources?" Henderson asked carefully, watching Marcus's reaction. The young man's eyes took on a distant look. "I've been thinking about sustainable energy solutions for lower-income neighborhoods. Solar power could really help families struggling with utility bills, but the initial installation costs are too high." He paused, then added quietly, "Like my mom's electricity bill last summer." Henderson nodded thoughtfully. "You're thinking beyond just technology to its practical applications for helping people. That's rare, Marcus. Very rare indeed." "My mom always says that blessings should flow through you, not to you," Marcus replied, shouldering his backpack. "If I ever make it as an engineer, I want to create things that matter." "When," Henderson corrected, "when you make it as an engineer." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. "I have a proposition for you, Marcus, one that might help you reach that goal sooner than you think." Standing in that grocery store parking lot, Marcus held the card carefully, unaware that this moment would mark the beginning of an extraordinary journey that would transform not only his life, but the lives of countless others through his future innovations. The principal's office at Washington Heights High School buzzed with an unusual energy that Wednesday morning. Lisa Johnson sat straight-backed in her nurse's scrubs, having rushed from her hospital shift to attend this unexpected meeting. Marcus occupied the chair beside her, while Richard Henderson stood by the window, his reflection mixing with the autumn sunlight. "Mrs. Johnson," Henderson began, turning to face them, "I want to be completely transparent about my intentions." He placed a leather portfolio on the principal's desk. "Over the past week, I've had the privilege of learning about your son's extraordinary potential. What I'm proposing today is a comprehensive educational partnership." Principal Martinez, who had known Marcus since his freshman year, leaned forward with interest. Henderson opened the portfolio, revealing meticulously prepared documents. "I'm offering to establish a trust for Marcus's education," Henderson continued. "This would cover advanced STEM programs, college preparation courses, and eventually his university education. But more than that, I want to mentor him personally in engineering and technology." Lisa's hands tightened slightly in her lap. "Mr. Henderson, while this is incredibly generous, I have to ask, why Marcus? Why us?" Henderson smiled, recognizing the protective instinct of a parent. "Your son didn't just help me with a flat tire, Mrs. Johnson. He demonstrated exceptional technical knowledge, problem-solving skills, and most importantly, genuine compassion. These qualities remind me of myself at his age. But Marcus has something I didn't, a clear vision for using technology to help others." He turned to Marcus, who had been listening intently. "Last week, you told me about your ideas for affordable solar energy solutions. I've spent 30 years in the tech industry, and I rarely encounter such innovative thinking, especially from someone your age." Principal Martinez nodded in agreement. Marcus's teachers consistently report that he's operating well above grade level in sciences and mathematics. Just last month, he helped our IT department redesign the computer lab's networking system. Lisa looked at her son, seeing both the boy she'd raised and the young man he was becoming. "Marcus, what do you think about all this?" Marcus straightened in his chair. "Mom, remember when Uncle Tony first taught me about cars? He said knowledge was valuable, but wisdom was knowing how to use it. Mr. Henderson isn't just offering money for school. He's offering guidance. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I think this could help me make those solar energy solutions real. Henderson approached Lisa, his manner respectful. Mrs. Johnson, I understand your hesitation. I'm not looking to replace anyone in Marcus's life. I'm simply offering to open doors that his talent and hard work have already earned him the right to walk through. Lisa studied the documents before her, detailed plans for advanced physics classes, engineering workshops, and university preparation. These opportunities, she began, her voice soft but firm, they'll require dedication, Marcus. Extra hours of study, less time for. I'm ready, Mom, Marcus interrupted gently. I've been ready. Henderson watched the exchange with quiet appreciation. There's no pressure to decide today, he assured them. Take time to discuss it as a family. The offer remains open. Principal Martinez stood, smiling. I've been in education for 20 years, she said. Moments like this, where talent meets opportunity, they're rare and precious. As they left the office that morning, Marcus felt the weight of possibility on his shoulders. Through the school's windows, he could see the autumn leaves dancing in the breeze, nature's own reminder that seasons of change brought new growth. His future, once a distant dream, suddenly felt within reach. The Atlanta Tech Innovation Center stood like a gleaming beacon against the winter sky. Marcus pressed his hand against his jacket pocket, feeling the security badge Henderson had given him just that morning. Remember, Henderson had said, this isn't just access to a building. It's access to your future. Inside the state-of-the-art facility, Marcus found himself surrounded by cutting-edge technology he'd only read about online. The robotics lab hummed with activity as engineers tested prototypes, their conversations floating through the air in fragments of technical terminology that made his heart race with excitement. Ready to get started? Henderson asked, leading Marcus to a workstation. The desk held a high-end laptop, digital drawing tablet, and multiple monitors. A small nameplate read, Marcus Johnson, engineering intern. This is really mine, Marcus asked, his fingers hovering over the keyboard reverently. You've earned it, Henderson replied. Now show me more about that solar energy project you've been sketching in your notebook. For the next few hours, Marcus's ideas flowed freely as Henderson guided him through professional design software. His rough drawings transformed into precise technical specifications. When Marcus explained his concept for a modular solar panel system that could be installed incrementally to spread out costs, Henderson's eyes lit up with recognition of true innovation. Later that week, Lisa Johnson arrived home from her night shift to find Marcus asleep at their kitchen table, surrounded by physics textbooks and technical journals. A half-eaten sandwich sat nearby, and his new laptop displayed complex calculus problems. She gently draped a blanket over his shoulders, noticing the small smile on his face even in sleep. The following Saturday, Henderson invited both Marcus and Lisa to observe a real engineering team meeting. As they watched through the conference room glass, Marcus leaned forward intently, absorbing every detail. Lisa noticed something different in her son's posture, a new confidence that came from finding one's true path. Your son has an extraordinary mind, Henderson told her quietly. Yesterday, he identified a flaw in our solar converter design that our senior engineers missed. He sees solutions where others see only problems. Lisa watched as Marcus was invited into the meeting, his face beaming as he explained his observation to the team of experienced engineers. They nodded with genuine respect, taking notes and asking follow-up questions. This wasn't charity. This was recognition of real talent. The transformation extended beyond technology. Marcus's English teacher reported that his essays had grown more articulate, enriched by his expanding worldview. His mathematics scores, already impressive, now topped the district. Even his grocery store manager noticed the difference as Marcus applied his new project management skills to reorganizing the store's inventory system. One evening, as Henderson drove Marcus home after a particularly productive session, they passed Johnson's auto shop. Marcus asked to stop, running inside to share his latest designs with Uncle Tony. The older man listened proudly as his nephew explained concepts that now went far beyond basic car repair, remembering the young boy who had once been fascinated by simple engine parts. "Mr. Henderson," Marcus said as they pulled away from the shop, "I've been thinking about ways to make electric vehicle maintenance more accessible to local mechanics like Uncle Tony." Henderson smiled, hearing in Marcus's words the perfect balance of ambition and remembrance of his roots. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that changes the world, Marcus, one community at a time." As they drove through the city streets, the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of promise, reflecting off the tech center's windows like a beacon of possibilities yet to come. Marcus stood at the podium in the Advanced Engineering Symposium, his heart pounding but his voice steady. At 16, he was the youngest presenter in the event's history. The audience of industry professionals and academic leaders watched intently as he explained his innovative approach to affordable solar energy distribution. "The key isn't just the technology," Marcus explained, clicking to his next slide. "It's making it accessible to everyday families." His design for modular solar installations had evolved far beyond his initial sketches, now incorporating sophisticated AI for optimal energy management. In the front row, Henderson beamed with pride. Behind him sat Lisa, Uncle Tony, and Principal Martinez, all watching Marcus command the room with growing confidence. As Marcus fielded complex questions from engineering professors and industry veterans, Lisa wiped away a quiet tear of joy. After the presentation, during the networking reception, a group of Marcus's classmates from his advanced physics course approached. "That was incredible," Sarah Chen said sincerely. "We had no idea you were working on something this big." Marcus smiled, remembering how some of these same students had initially kept their distance when he joined their advanced classes. Time and shared challenges had gradually broken down those barriers, replacing uncertainty with respect. Later that evening, as Marcus packed up his presentation materials, he overheard two conference attendees talking nearby. "Remarkable presentation," one said. "Henderson's really found himself a prodigy." "Makes you wonder, though," the other replied. "Would the kid be here without Henderson's influence? Is it real talent or just good marketing?" Marcus's hand stilled over his laptop. He'd encountered such whispers before, suggestions that his achievements weren't truly his own. Henderson, approaching from behind, placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "You know what I saw out there today?" Henderson asked quietly. "I saw a young man who took an opportunity and transformed it through his own hard work. The ideas are yours, Marcus. The dedication is yours. My role was simply to provide resources you should have had access to all along." Marcus nodded, straightening his shoulders. "I know, sir. Mom always says that other people's doubts are about them, not about me." "Your mother is a wise woman," Henderson smiled. "Speaking of which, I believe she's waiting to take you to a celebration dinner. Uncle Tony's treating everyone at that new restaurant downtown." As they walked toward the exit, they passed the wall of past symposium speakers, decades of photographs showing innovation's history. Next year, Marcus's picture would join them, not because of who had helped him, but because of what he had achieved. The restaurant was crowded that evening, but Marcus barely noticed. He was too busy sharing ideas with Uncle Tony about integrating electric vehicle charging stations into traditional auto shops, making the transition to sustainable energy more accessible for small business owners. "You're still thinking about the whole picture," Uncle Tony noted proudly. "Not just the technology, but the people who'll use it." Principal Martinez raised her glass in a toast. "To Marcus Johnson," she said warmly, "who reminds us that talent knows no boundaries when given a chance to shine." Later that night, as Marcus reviewed his presentation notes, he added a new section: Community Integration Strategies. Tomorrow, he would begin working on ways to bring his solar technology to neighborhoods like his own. Success meant nothing, he realized, if it couldn't be shared with others who were just waiting for their own chance to rise. The early morning sun streamed through the windows of Marcus's bedroom, illuminating the wall where his achievements hung proudly. Academic medals, engineering certificates, and at the center, his MIT acceptance letter. Today marked his high school graduation, but for Marcus it represented something far greater, a dream realized through determination. In the kitchen, Lisa adjusted her new dress, purchased specially for the occasion. She found Marcus at the table, adding final touches to his valedictorian speech. 3 years had transformed her son from a promising teenager into a young man destined for greatness, yet he remained the same caring soul who once stopped to help a stranger with a flat tire. "You ready, baby?" she asked, smoothing his graduation robe. Marcus smiled, touching the honor cords draped around his neck. "Almost. Just tweaking a few things in my speech." He'd been selected not only as valedictorian, but also to represent the district at the state STEM Achievement Ceremony next month. A familiar Tesla pulled into their driveway. Henderson stepped out, carrying a small package wrapped in silver paper. Over the years, his role had evolved from mentor to family friend, joining them for Sunday dinners and holiday celebrations. "Before we head to the ceremony," Henderson said, handing Marcus the package, "I wanted you to have this." Inside, Marcus found a framed photograph, himself and Henderson standing beside the Tesla on that fateful summer day, captured by a security camera from the nearby business. Henderson had tracked it down as a surprise. "To remind you," Henderson said softly, "that life-changing moments often come disguised as ordinary days." At the graduation ceremony, the auditorium buzzed with excitement. Uncle Tony sat with his auto shop crew, all wearing fresh pressed shirts. Marcus's teachers beamed with pride, remembering the quiet freshman who had blossomed into a leading voice in STEM education. Principal Martinez introduced Marcus to the podium, her voice carrying genuine emotion. A student who exemplifies not just academic excellence, but the power of seizing opportunity with both hands. Marcus stood at the microphone, looking out at the faces before him. His mother wiping proud tears, Henderson sitting tall and dignified, his classmates waiting eagerly. He took a deep breath and began. "3 years ago, I made a choice to stop and help someone in need. That simple decision opened doors I never knew existed. But walking through those doors, that took courage, dedication, and the support of countless people who believed in me." He spoke about innovation and perseverance, about his solar energy projects now being considered for implementation in low-income housing developments. He talked about the importance of lifting others as you climb. "Success isn't just about personal achievement," he continued. "It's about creating pathways for others to follow. Each of us has the power to be both the person who needs help and the person who stops to offer it." In the audience, Henderson listened intently, remembering their first technical discussion about Tesla's engineering. Now Marcus was preparing to attend the same university Henderson had once dreamed of, carrying with him not just academic knowledge, but a vision for technology that served humanity. After the ceremony, amidst the celebration and photographs, Marcus pulled Henderson aside. "I've been accepted into MIT's special research program," he revealed excitedly. "They want to develop my solar energy system, but more importantly, they're offering summer engineering camps for high school students. I'd like to help coordinate them, maybe mentor some kids who remind me of myself." Henderson smiled, recognizing in Marcus's words the completion of a circle, the mentored becoming the mentor, the helped becoming the helper. "You know," he said, "I think that might be your greatest innovation yet." 5 years later, Marcus stood in his new office at Tech Horizons, the spring sunshine warming the space through floor-to-ceiling windows. At 23, he'd already accomplished more than he'd ever dreamed possible that summer afternoon when he'd stopped to help with a flat tire. His desk displayed his MIT diploma alongside a framed photo of his graduation day. His mother, Henderson, Uncle Tony, and Principal Martinez, all beaming proudly. Beside it sat the latest issue of Innovation Today magazine, featuring his solar energy initiative that was now powering hundreds of homes in underserved communities. A knock at his door interrupted his reflection. "Mr. Johnson." His assistant poked her head in. "The students from Washington Heights High School are here for their tour." Marcus smiled, straightening his tie. This was his favorite part of the job, the part he'd insisted on when Tech Horizons had recruited him. Once a month, he hosted students from his old high school, showing them that dreams had no boundaries. In the lobby, 20 teenagers waited, their eyes wide as they took in the sleek technology center. Marcus recognized that look, the same one he'd worn when Henderson first brought him here. Among them stood a girl in a slightly worn school uniform, clutching a notebook filled with detailed sketches of wind turbine designs. "Welcome to Tech Horizons," Marcus began, his voice warm and engaging. "I stood exactly where you're standing now, just a few years ago. Back then, I was a kid from the neighborhood with big dreams and a lot of questions." As he led the tour, Marcus shared not just the technology, but the story behind it. He showed them the solar panel prototypes, explaining how his original design had evolved through collaboration and persistence. The students' questions grew bolder, their excitement more visible with each step. The girl with the wind turbine sketches, Maria, lingered after the others moved on to the next station. "Sir," she said hesitantly, "I've been working on an idea for harnessing wind energy in urban areas, but everyone says it's impractical." Marcus glanced at her notebook. "You know what's impractical? Letting others define what's possible." He pulled out his phone, sending a quick message. "I have someone I'd like you to meet." Later that afternoon, Henderson arrived at the office, his hair now fully silver, but his eyes still bright with purpose. He listened intently as Maria explained her wind turbine concept, asking the same kind of thoughtful questions he'd once asked Marcus. "What do you think?" Marcus asked after Maria left, clutching Henderson's business card and information about Tech Horizons' new student mentorship program. Henderson smiled. "I think she reminds me of another young innovator I met by chance." Speaking of which, he handed Marcus an envelope. "The first round of funding for your community engineering centers has been approved. 10 locations across 5 cities, just like you proposed." Marcus opened the envelope, emotion tightening his throat. The centers would provide free engineering education and resources to underserved communities, breaking down the barriers he'd once faced. That evening, as Marcus drove home past his old neighborhood, he stopped at Johnson's auto shop. Uncle Tony was teaching a group of local kids about electric vehicle maintenance, part of the shop's new training program that Marcus had helped establish. "Look who's here," Tony called out. "My nephew, the man who's lighting up the city." Marcus joined them, rolling up his sleeves. "Mind if I help with today's lesson?" As he demonstrated the intricacies of electric motor systems to eager young faces, Marcus felt the perfect symmetry of the moment. Success wasn't just about rising to the top. It was about building elevators for others to rise to.